Okay, so I really did just narrow down and clarified why it is that I am pushing for indefinite life and why I am working my ass off to substantiate it. Because we have done research around people looping in their politics, looping in their traumas, looping in their belief systems that cause them to go down a very treacherous road. We are exhibiting the constant life and death loop in humanity as well as in animals that we take care of. And so, why is it desirable not to go back to a single-celled organism? Because if you've already graduated to conception, you've already been through the hell of growing up and maturing and learning and making mistakes. Why would you take yourself back to a single-celled organism? Why would you go down? Why would you climb out of a hole only to climb back in that hole again? Why not stay out of that hole? Why not, the thing with life, okay, life is made up of viruses and bacteria and fungi and protozoa and parasites and proteins. The thing about life is that you had to use all the different parasites and fungus and protozoa and bacteria and viruses and proteins to get you where you are today. And the reason why some of you are very miserable is because you have imbalances in your fatty acids, amino acids, prohormones, and minerals that's causing you to go now back to what you started out with, which is the parasites. There are parasites that are they're non-disease, like that don't cause disease, like pinworms, and they help metabolize nutrients or help clean up and metabolize and balance out the microbiome of a child. And then those pinworms then disappear as you mature. So there are things that we deal with as we grow up to help us develop as an adult, that when we start dying, we start revisiting the hell that we did when we grew up. I mean, I'm not saying that all of your childhood was hell, but I'll tell you what, I mean, learning, it can be very hellish. Evolving can be very hellish when you are noticing you have parasites because your body is developing and evolving. It's not very comfortable when you have all these different symptoms because your body is weak. It's not very comfortable. Why would you want to come back to a single-celled organism to only start over again? Not that you would remember, because everything that you ever really knew kind of for the most part is forgotten, and then you have to go and reinvent the wheel again. Why do that? So this is why I push for indefinite life. This is why I push for, I don't see really the need to die, and why I don't see why it would be something that's optimal. And so I mean, when I was talking to my editor and she was asking me, well, you really didn't glean out in this paragraph, what is it about indefinite death that is so unsavory or unappealing? It's because we have graduated and earned the right to be a multi-celled organism that went through the hell of learning and dealing with, parasites and overabundance of fungus and protozoa, which are not inherently bad, but we had to deal with all the different imbalances as we grew up to finally get some kind of equilibrium, some kind of homeostasis, until things are breaking down. And then we had to go and re-experience growing up again by decaying. It doesn't have to happen that way, but that is what people are experiencing. And then you're seeing them go through the hell of dying, no different than going through the hell of growing up. Some people's childhoods are much easier and much better than others. Some people's death process is much easier and much better than others, but it's all relative. Okay, so what if we didn't have to grow up? What if we didn't have to die and we just stayed this perfectly homeostasis person that's able to adapt to the changing conditions in the environment? So that is why, I am how I characterize what indefinite death is where you have to start over again when you don't have to. If you already earned all these cells, you start off as a single protein, one single protein that then had to wait for conception. You had to be the strongest swimmer. You had to compete to have some kind of life. Well, why do you need to compete anymore? You've made it, but now you've got to sustain it. And some of you are not sustaining it very well. Some of you are going down these crazy death trajectories and degradation and decay. But if you made it, sustain it. I got to write this down. Made it, sustain it. Holy crap. If you made it, sustain it. And so this is so perfect. The jelly juice is so perfect with this Wuhan virus that is going to basically level humanity and put everybody on an equal playing field. And those of you who have earned the right to be on this earth, you will be. Those of you who haven't, you will start seeing systematic degradation. And so if you've already made it as an adult and you're here on this earth, you can completely improve upon your adulthood. You can completely improve to where you don't have to start going down that road of decay, where now you're going to deal with parasites, fungus, and viruses, and protozoa, and different proteins that are going to systematically take you down to that one single organism that you fought so hard to go and graduate from to be this multi-celled human being. Why fight for regression? That's what's going on with everybody that is going through the aging process. You're fighting to regress. You're not looking to improve or sustain. You're fighting to regress back to then that single-celled organism that is not very evolved. And so the whole point of Jelly Juice is to evolve, not to devolve. And then we realized that the single-celled organism, that protein, came from salt, sodium chloride. So in my group, we are discussing the types of salts that people are looking for and how they interpret some of the scientific language. And yeah, I mean, there's types of salts that have something, that says a different scientific thing, but means the same thing, in the UK, and then there's different salts over here and different salts over there. And what kind of salt? Again, we're back in the salt wars, but not really. We're now narrowing down that we need the sodium chloride, the 99% sodium chloride, the 1% anti-caking agent, or you don't have any at all. It doesn't matter, iodized or non-iodized, it doesn't matter. Okay, so we realized that where life began was in salt and water, and then you had a single protein that had the help of a community of viruses, bacteria, fungus, protozoa, parasites, and proteins. And that was the building blocks of humanity. And then humans have an intelligent design, no different than a dog or a cat or a plant. All of biodiversity has intelligent designs. Now, whether or not it was the chicken that came first or the egg doesn't even matter. The fact that we're here, the fact that you have graduated to be this amazing adult, okay? The fact that you are an adult, why don't you maintain it? Why go down that road of destruction? And that's the whole point of Jelly Juice, is to really, to really love life again. To love life, not embrace depression, anxiety, and all the things that cause people to be diagnosed or to can't wait for death type of thing. No, the whole point of Jelly Juice is to embrace and love life, to where you don't have to go back to be that single-celled organism that's waiting for conception, waiting for that bus. And some of you keep missing the bus. You're going down that road of destruction. You're going to end up into that single, because that's what happens. The parasites come back and they eat you from the inside. They keep you alive for a certain amount of time because they're helping you. They're like intermediaries between your 11 different systems and you, and because you have chemical messages that are kind of they're convoluted because of the misfirings, of the imbalances. So these parasites and the protozoa and the fungus and the bacteria and the viruses, then become very abundant, and they are like kind of like they help substitute until they take over and eat you out from the inside, and then cause you to eventually be that single-celled organism back into the earth, where you give off nitrogen. You are now all of these minerals, because what the cells are, they are made up of organic and inorganic material, acids, as well as viruses. And so viruses aren't cells. Viruses are DNA, genetic data, DNA and RNA. And the bacteria, fungus, protozoa, proteins, and parasites are cells, and cells make up those. But viruses are what the evolution is. Viruses could either evolve you or they will devolve you. They are nature's balancing force. And so if viruses don't have an actual cellular structure, they are just basically a genetic makeup made up of it's an envelope that keeps that data together, and then it gets inserted. And viruses can actually insert itself in funguses. They can insert themselves in bacteria, protozoa, proteins, parasites, and they are an aggressive form of data. And they can actually evolve the bacteria, the protozoa, the proteins, the fungus, or the parasites, or they can devolve and destroy. It's based upon how those entities are able to adapt to the environment. So that's why there's such craziness around the vaccines and around this Wuhan virus and around all these, these pathogens, is because people are dealing with weak bodies, and they are systematically destroying themselves to end up to turn into that single-celled organism that they worked so hard to get out of. You worked your ass off to grow up. I did. It wasn't easy growing up, but you made it. Now you just have to sustain it. There's no point in going back to a single-celled organism. It's better to be a multi-celled organism. And so that's what indefinite life is, where you are continuously a multi-celled organism that has all of the data that you've ever acquired in your whole lifetime, and you keep it. You don't systematically degrade and then end up to be a single-celled organism like you began, but you stay a multi-celled intelligent organism that is peaceful, that is productive, that utilizes your talents, that you don't try to destroy people, places, and things. Okay? So that is the desire of the Jilly Juice world, is to realize that the single protein that was basically 10 amino acids that made up a foldable protein that was found in the salt water, the Jilly Juice, is sodium chloride within the carbon, the bacteria that synthesizes with the carbon matter and all the minerals and the elements. And you get the nutrients, and you get the minerals, like I said, and you get the acids, and you get the water. Okay? And that is exactly aligned with that single-celled organism that has then intermediaries like the viruses and the bacteria and the fungus and the protozoa and the parasites and proteins, all working together to build up the human, to build up the maturity of the human or whatever entity. And so I just discovered this when I saw people were passed, like with the Wuhan virus, people are passed along, knowing the difference between a virus and a bacteria and a protozoa and a protein, a fungi and a parasite. And they're like, oh, these are all pathogenic. Well, I knew that came from the perspective of the industry that deals with sick people. Viruses, bacteria, fungi, protozoa, protein, and parasites are not pathogenic on a strong human, but they're only pathogenic on people who are weak, who are actually actively destroying themselves to take themselves down to that single-celled organism that's going to have to start life all over again. And so I don't want to go back to a single-cell organism. I hope you guys don't want to go back to a single-cell organism where you're competing to be for life. Because I'm telling you, single-cell organisms, are not as strong as a multi-celled organism. Okay? So you already made it. You have trillions of cells. You have intelligence. You have life. You have all of this here. Sustain it. Don't destroy it. And that's the whole point of Jilly Juice, is we're not destroying our bodies. We are regenerating the cells that have been mismanaged, as well as purging out the ones that really are beyond repair, and we are sustaining the life that we've worked so hard to build. That's the whole point of Jilly Juice, is to sustain what you've worked your ass off for. Not systematically destroy it, but freaking build it and sustain it and keep it. Okay? And so this is what life of biodiversity is, basically viruses, bacteria, fungus, protozoa, protein, and parasites. They are not the enemy. They're only an enemy on bodies that have no desire to really truly sustain the life that they've created. And so now they will be a balancing force and destroy those that don't take care of themselves. And then those that are taking care of themselves with a very healthy environment in the body will then keep living and building and evolving. And that's as simple as it's going to get. Okay? So, does it really matter where we began? Does it matter if it's the chicken or the egg? No, it's a matter that you're here and you want to sustain it. You've made it, you need to sustain it. And, it's going to be difficult this next couple months, this next year. The year of the rat's going to be very, very, it's going to be a turning point. You're going to see a lot of examples of what not to do. And hopefully the Jilly Juice world will be an example of what to do. And hopefully you guys will choose, life. But you know what? With life and death, they do exist. But you can choose not to be the one to die. You can choose life as others choose death. I told my mom that I changed the salt. And I told her, well, this is the reason why, and da-da-da. And she's like, I'm not going to do it. Okay. She has no desire to do this. And I understand, fine. Now, did I give her this whole explanation? No. Do you think if I gave her this explanation, would she change her mind? Probably not. However, people are given the choice. Those of you that stick around and watch me, you'll follow what I'm doing. You'll hopefully do it and not question me too much. And then you will reap the benefits. And those that, don't really care, that's okay. People have lived for 50, 100 years and they love it. And that's okay. But I just want to give you the reasoning behind why I drive so hard to get my point across, why I went from the pink salt to the white salt. Thanks, Christina. Now it actually makes sense. CJ Majesty Bates, you have to watch my videos on YouTube. We're using white table salt with 1% anti-caking agent. So 99% sodium chloride, 1% anti-caking agent. No pink salt, no sea salt, no black salt, no green salt. You get the minerals. I'll do a little tiny review. You get your minerals from the cabbage water, and you get it from the air and the food. Okay, and you can use iodized salt or non-iodized salt. It doesn't matter. As long as it's white salt, it's 99% sodium chloride, 1% anti-caking agent, and don't be using supplements. Okay, CJ Majesty Bates, I've told you guys there's no reason to use supplements. I did say the pink salt. I've changed the pink salt because you're getting already minerals in the air, food, and water, so you don't need an extra set of minerals to go and wade through. And that's why your ferments are smelly, because it's like you pooping. You're pooping out not only the cabbage and the kale, but you're pooping out minerals. Minerals is what makes things smelly. It's what makes things taste good, and it's what makes things taste smelly or smell. Okay, so we lessen the minerals out of the salts, and it's only sodium chloride, and you get your minerals from the tap water, the cabbage and kale, and the air, and you already have minerals in your body that are pretty overabundant, because some of you are complaining about heavy metal toxicity. You are now getting a very effectively strategic, clean process. And your ferments are not going to stink. They're going to taste better. They're going to feel better. You're going to get waterfalls pretty fast. Okay. And there you go. But you can't afford to supplement CJ Majesty Baits because I have no idea what your predispositions are, and can you afford to roll the dice with this coronavirus? Why would you want to roll the dice? But now I'm not going to get on you too much because it's difficult. The pink salt was very difficult. But those that are really diehard found healing. I could tell who's the diehard ones. I knew I was diehard. I could tell the diehard ones that wanted to heal because they took in inordinate amounts of it and it still gave them benefit. But now going from the pink salt to the white salt, how much more benefit are you going to get? How fast is your healing process going to be? Okay. And there you go. So you can get the Morton salt, okay, CJ Majesty Baits, get the Morton salt. It doesn't matter if it's iodized or not iodized. You can get big, large ones, okay? So I know you were doing pink, okay? I know you're doing pink. We're changing it from the pink to the white. Everybody was doing pink. But the ones that were diehard were the ones that actually gave me testimonies, and they took in a lot of it, and it still gave them benefit. And yes, you were diehard, Caroline, and you still are. Okay, but the ones that gave me testimony were diehard people that were taking it and didn't care how it smelled, didn't care really how it tasted, but saw the benefits. Even though they had to wade through the extra minerals, they still got benefit. So I don't want to hear excuses of how, oh, I was doing the pink salt. Let me tell you, when somebody is that committed, it's not really going to matter because there's nothing poisonous, if anything, about the pink salt. If anything, it was deemed healthier than the sodium chloride. So that really should not be an excuse of why someone doesn't do the due diligence protocol because of the pink salt, because that was the characterization of it. It was the healthier salt. So there should be no excuse of why people would be falling off the protocol if that was deemed healthier by the system. But now we've isolated the minerals, the two minerals that we need to have access to. And that is the sodium chloride. Yeah, the 1% anti-caking agent. You get your minerals in the cabbage, the kale, food in the water and in the air. Okay? And you're going to have a much much nicer smelling ferment. It's going to be cleaner waterfalls. And it's going to be easier to drink. Like, it's going to taste freaking good. So that's how we've simplified. But here's the thing. We don't want people going back to the one-celled organism. I want you guys to be a sophisticated multi-celled organism that wants to live. That will do whatever it takes to live without breaking the law. Okay? That's what I'm looking for. And I'll fight tooth and nail for it. Let me tell you, innately, I get very aggressive when someone challenges my salt. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're so close to me. Like, my husband challenges me all the time. He was actually the first one that was like, oh my God, when I told him what I was going to do. But I don't care. I know exactly. I know innately. And I didn't know it really until my editor, who was quizzing me about the protein. Is protein a life form? And she's not dumb. But we don't really know all the, I didn't even really know how to explain. I just basically put it together. Oh yeah, this is a life form. These are the life forms. Viruses, bacteria, protozoa, fungi, parasites, and proteins and whatever, right? But when I was writing my paragraph or my chapter, I didn't go into detail of all of these because I was kind of being superficial. And then she had a question about the protein as being a life form. And then I went and did the research and saw that the first life form is, the protein made up of 10 amino acids in the freaking salt water. Holy crap. And that's what then triggered me into this next thing. So, when you change your biochemistry, when you change your environment, when you kind of change energies, in your world, whether you switch your room around or you buy new clothes or whatever it is you do, when you change the energy, you start thinking differently. And then all the things that you ever covered just in different contexts, they start coming back. And then you're like, oh my God, yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. When someone poops, it's all smelly. You know, when someone poops, it's all smelly. Morton salt, CJ Majesty. I said Morton salt. Okay, so yeah, it stands to reason why then the pink salt ferments were so smelly, because of all the freaking minerals. And that's a real revelation. So when someone has smelly poop, they got smelly minerals. And then they use that for flavoring. So you get smelly poop, right? And then you go flavor your food with minerals. It's kind of the same thing, right? When you're using spices are minerals. When someone uses garlic and cayenne pepper and turmeric, it's all freaking heavy metals. It's all minerals. It tastes great going in, it smells like shit going out, literally. So all the things that you've ever heard or you've made connections on other things, you'll start putting it all together when we do break everything down and simplify it all. That's the whole point of Jelly Juice, is to simplify and compartmentalize and promote life. Not saying that, oh yeah, we should be anti-abortion, but to promote life where you don't die, to where you don't have to reproduce another child because you're the best copy. That was my whole premise on challenging reproduction, was the fact that people are not healthy, so they reproduce. And then, oh my God, the ones that love to reproduce, say that they're so healthy, are taking offense to that characterization. And so that's what I had to fight against too, is the fact that I was challenging mothers, crunchy mamas no less, who claim to be very, very healthy, but they got a lot of issues. And when you're constantly having babies, you're not very healthy. Even having one baby, it stems from imbalances. I mean, one of the benefits of the parasites that I was reading was the fact it increased your fertility. Why is that? Because when you have a lot of parasites, it means you have imbalances. You're needing intermediaries to go and read the chemical messages in your body and to start then breaking down organic material that you can't seem to break down on your own. So anti-caking agent is not bad, CJ. Oh my God. I said you get 99% sodium chloride, 1% anti-caking agent. That is fine. Okay? No more interjecting. I told you the kind of salt. Find the 99% sodium chloride, 1% anti-caking agent, and it could be ferrocyanide. That's what it could be, and that's fine. And leave it at that. All right? So, now you got me off track there, CJ. That's why I don't like people to freaking comment and they're always asking questions, because you get me off on track, especially when you make me freaking respond. And I get all emotional because it's like, can I wake you up a bit? You guys are like asleep, like seriously asleep. So yes, you can laugh and it's fine. I'm not going to get too upset because I know you guys are going through a healing process. You guys are messed up. You got so many issues that are going on in your life. I get it. You're juggling, you're prioritizing. You know, the Jelly Juice is not easy, and we changed from the pink salt to the white salt. It's going to be easier with the white salt. So I get it. I'm going to try to be more patient, but I still get triggered. I still get annoyed, especially when those that understand healing and all that stuff and want to blame me for all their issues, which I don't really have a lot of patience for. But yeah, so yeah, that's the whole point of Jelly Juice, is to just stay alive. Just stay alive. You know, when parasites are triggering fertility, it means you have an inordinate amount of imbalances. When mothers are having babies, they have imbalances. When trees are dropping seeds because of wintertime, it's because they're going through a biochemical change that puts them in a very temporary death process. Okay? So yeah, and some people can characterize motherhood as like, oh yes, I'm having this baby carry on the genetic line. Well, what's wrong with you carrying on the genetic line? Why do you have to start over again with your kid? You're just going to have your kid repeat the same mistakes as you. What's the point of that? So that's one of the hardest things to get across to mothers, is the fact that they are basically bearing children that are going to be just like them, if not worse. Because no one's addressing the predispositions of not only the parent, but also the child. And so that's why you're seeing then the rapid decay of society, because parents and children are rapidly decaying. But they're getting their degrees and they're, playing their games and all that stuff in their 30, 40, 50, 60 years of their life. So we got to stick around to remind people of what history, not to repeat it, not to keep looping and reinventing the wheel, to remember things so we're not repeating the same mistakes over and over and over again. And then maybe humanity, who knows where the hell it's going to take us? I don't even know. I absolutely have no idea if we got all of us 100% well balanced, where we're not reproducing, we're not dying, though, the global elite who wrote the Georgia Guidestones said that they want to maintain humanity to 500 million, balancing out the humans and biodiversity. What is it? No unjust laws, nations or what, you could read the Georgia Guidestones. But that sounds like utopia. How many people out there that have kids that are committing crimes? How many parents are so worried about pedophiles? That type of thing. So, there's got to be a balancing force out there to take away those that are violating the laws of life. And we have to still keep just living, and being balanced about it. And if we're going to have children, we have to take a responsibility to make sure that they are raised well balanced, not afraid of parasites. When parents, sugar, come here, stop it. When parents are worried about parasites, they don't realize that parasites are there. This is the pinworms. They're not bad. They help the kid clean up, because the kid isn't cleaning their ass very well. They're not wiping their butt very well. They got a lot of stuff going on. So the pinworms are there to kind of help, clean up everything. And then eventually, as you mature, they disappear. They disappeared for me. Okay? I had them as a kid too. I see them coming out of my skin when I was a kid. I had them, when I was on the toilet. I'm like, hey, what is this? Okay? So, you're teaching your children not to be afraid of bacteria, viruses, fungi, parasites, and proteins. We're going to have an amazing, amazing human race. But we have to understand how to live symbiotically with biodiversity. Yes, Caroline, visit the Georgia Guidestones, because that's exactly what's going on. That's exactly where we're headed to. There's a reason why 500 million versus none, right? But I guess they've done their math where they look at the population of when all these different pandemics and epidemics happen. Back then, the plague and the Spanish flu, and they figured out, okay, well, 2/3 of the population, 1/3 were taken down. And so this is what we project with this Wuhan virus, if that's what they're actually doing. I have no idea. I'm not substantiating that at all. Okay, so they know that there's going to be strong people that will withstand this virus. And there are others that are not going to make it. Yep. Okay, so I'm giving you now the tools to be able to sustain what you've worked so hard for. You worked your ass off to get out from that hole of being that one-celled organism to now being a multi-celled intelligent organism that doesn't have to go back to being that one-celled organism competing for conception. You made it, sustain it. All right, have a good day. Bye.